Welcome to Freelance Freedom. Now we have the overview. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction, and then we're going to go to defining success, what that means, the highs, the lows, growing an audience, partnerships, kind of how to get them, strategic partnerships, and at the end, any questions that you may have. Or you can just jump in anytime while I'm also speaking, totally fine. Okay, so my name is Phoebe and I'm from Vancouver and I'm kind of between Vancouver and New York at the moment. Hopefully I'll be moving there soon. We'll see, visa in process. But a bit about me. So I actually first started out studying science, very classic. I don't know, I have Asian parents. They wanted me to go into something traditional. And I was like, okay, I'm going to study molecular biology. And then after that, I kind of worked in some media jobs. I moved around. I lived in China for a bit. And then COVID happened. And I don't know if that's kind of similar to people. COVID happened, people start like rethinking their lives. So I basically ended up moving back to Vancouver from Shenzhen in China, where I was living at the time. And I decided to go back into school for interior design. I've always been interested in design and architecture art from a young age. Um, but I thought at the moment I was like, I don't think I'm gonna go back to school for architecture just because I kind of asked my other friends and stuff, and it is a long road to architecture, a lot of studying. And at the time, I think I was already 26 when I was coming back. And I was like, okay, why not I try interior design? I was at BCIT in Vancouver. And during COVID, they also had some online lessons. So I thought that was a good transition way to see if I liked the field of interior design, at least. So I started at BCIT and I actually quite liked it. And we did a lot of hand rendering in class, and that's when I kind of fell into like starting to draw furniture and learning more about furniture. There was a class called the History of Furniture, which I thought was so interesting. And normally I don't really like history like told through wars and, geopolitical things, but through furniture, I thought it was a very interesting way to tie in how history and the arts, like everything evolves together. And then basically, I started my TikTok because I was kind of like, oh, like everyone around me was so talented. We're all doing the same projects, learning the same skills, SketchUp, AutoCAD, all these skills. But I was like, how can I kind of differentiate myself? So I started a little TikTok and I definitely started with a lot of kind of random content until I started drawing these little squares. I don't know if you've seen, but there's like the wood texture, the tile, marble, and then that's what kind of went viral. Like at the time, it was like you would post and then get like 10,000 views, and then it jumped up to like 100K. This is like maybe 3 years ago. And I was like, oh, I see something like really happening here. So I kept building upon it and basically just pumped out content from until I kind of like built my channel. So, does anyone have any questions at the moment? All good. Okay, I'm gonna go to next. So, defining success. So, yeah, I definitely didn't follow a traditional design or influencer route because, again, I kind of knew I was like 26 at the time, and I was like, if I'm gonna be an interior designer, I mean, I could basically start out intern at a firm, work my way up at the firm, at a large firm, but I knew that process would take 3 to 5 years to get where I wanted to go. And I also knew the pay was quite low. So I was like, okay, I'm on this TikTok path, I'm seeing success. So I'm just going to keep going at it. And actually, when I was doing TikTok, I was still freelancing and like doing other things on the side. Like I was still going to school. I think I was writing some online articles at the time and I was just like freelancing, doing like marketing, social media stuff on the side. So it was 2022, and I think that's when my account did kind of blow up per se. I think I reached like 100K in 3 months, and I was like, I'm gonna throw a 100K party, like just to celebrate. And then the year after that is when I started kind of getting, yeah, I was getting brand partnerships. I think the first major one was for Figma, which is like a design app. Um, and I thought that was really cool. I was like, wow, like I just built this audience. And then another big one I probably got was Samsung after that, which was really cool. So 2023 was all about kind of building my audience, figuring out my content, like the different niche, like unique series that I had. And that kind of started into this drawing furniture series. Like first I was really just doing really simple textures at first. And then alongside that, I also started to do more interior design content, which is what I ultimately want to do, but it's kind of like where I started is the illustration. And then last year is when I started designing this apartment that you can see on the left with the brick. And I think that process to design the apartment took about 6 months to complete. And that's the thing with interior projects as well. Like they take a long time, and I would document the process on TikTok, but it's always kind of frustrating because if you're a creative as well, these projects take a long time and you're like, I don't feel like putting it out until it's like perfect. And sometimes I even like I'll post a story the other day and it's just about like painting the walls and you're thinking, "Oh, it's so small, like I don't really want to show people until it's completely finished." But it's really sometimes the small things that people want these like quick tips about, like whether it's just painting your wall a certain color, like all the trims. So I did kind of take people along the process from finding the apartment, photographing it, styling it, and also like crowdsourcing for their opinions. But sometimes it turns out really like everyone's so opinionated on interior design, but it's fine. Like they can just chat in the comments regardless. So after I got that project photographed, I just submitted it to a bunch of publications. And then Architectural Digest was like, yes, we'd love to feature it. And so, yeah, that happened in December of last year. And then this year, I am still focusing on content, and I really want to build more of an engaged community. It's actually quite hard. I don't know if I think it's also just the niche I'm in. But currently now I'm working on uh, a book deal. So I'm speaking to a bunch of editors. So right now, I guess I'm not focusing as much on like growing my audience, but I kind of want to be placed more in the interior design space. So yeah, that's kind of like my success, I will say, but definitely not a linear or traditional path. Um, okay, so highs and lows. The first, oh, I will say the first big moment, okay, the first big yes moment was I did a brand partnership with Aritzia. I thought that was really exciting at the time. And how that came about was because a year prior, I actually would draw things for brands that I wanted to partner with. So I think I drew their Super Puff the year prior, and it had got a lot of views on TikTok, a lot of traction. And then they reached out the next year and was like, "Hey, we saw this video you did, and we loved it. Like, would love to partner." And then so that was really exciting. And then yeah, it kind of all like snowballs on top of each other. Reality behind the scenes, burnout. Yes, I will say after a while when I was like pumping out a lot of the same content, all the textures, and then I was doing all the chairs. I did kind of feel like, oh, am I like running out of chairs? Or I feel like this content is getting kind of boring. It's not really hitting the same. So then actually, I really do take a lot of time sometimes to take a step back, and I do a lot of like analytics. Like I look and reflect back on, okay, what's doing well, like where can I try to pivot the content? And a lot of times it's just like, yeah, it's not doing so well, but I also don't want to just be known for being viral. I want to build something that's long term and really focus on the interior design aspect of it later on. And that's the thing, like a lot of it's not instant interior design. These projects take like 6 to 12 months. Then you photograph it. Then you can like create a lot of content out of it afterwards. But I think the most important thing is just to just keep going at it. And then eventually like there will you get the highs, you're like, oh, this one went viral, and you like feel good for a second. I feel like my nervous system is probably not good because it really is like when I get like great comments or viral videos, you're like, oh, this is good. And then if I feel like I'm not producing something, I'm always like, I'm not doing anything today. That's what I feel like. But then I have to remind myself like it's about like the long journey, not just oh, like, and I also don't like making videos just to go viral. Like I don't really like doing like very, what do you call it, clickbaity hook, like trendy stuff, like just jumping on those trends. So I try to stay away from that and try to have more like of more like original content, I would say. So work-life boundaries when I am the brand. I definitely um I definitely try to stick to a routine. I am very like I do travel a lot, but in the morning I stick to like a very strict routine. It's like I get up at 7 every day. I have my like drink, whatever, beverage, matcha. Yes, I'm so cliche. I make matcha in the morning. But then I also do need to always schedule, like I work out at least like 3, 4 times a week. And I don't know if it's for you guys the same if you're a freelancer, but a lot of the times you're like working by yourself and it is quite lonely. So it's really nice to, you have to definitely be more open and try to have coffee chats with different people. Like I've connected with Devin and Jasmine of Oko, and they've introduced me to a bunch of other creatives and freelancers, and just definitely be open to connecting with different people. Like when I'm traveling, I make sure I was just in London, I make sure I was trying to reach out to an old friend who's an interior designer just to stay connected with them and see what else they're doing. Just definitely have a really open mind. And then my advice for people transitioning from a 9 to 5 to freelance is definitely keep your 9 to 5. And I don't think you should really just aspire to be a content creator in general. Like, I think you really should have some sort of skill set, whether maybe you were at your job and it's like maybe you're very good at sales or marketing or finance or whatever it is, but you should always have something. I think, unless you're, amazing personality. I don't know, maybe you were meant for it, but you definitely need to have some sort of skill to fall back on before you just start freelancing. I think I probably been freelancing for like 3 years now, but it was definitely a gradual shift before I did content creation full time. Yeah. Okay, the next part. This might finish earlier than 40 minutes, guys. So growing an audience. My philosophy behind creating Instagram, TikTok. I actually started with TikTok first, and then once I saw a lot of traction, I started just reposting the same videos to Instagram. I was like, oh, okay, why not? And then that kind of did the same thing, like Instagram grew. Um, I do really just kind of cross post the same content between all platforms. TikTok, obviously, I will do kind of more like random off the cuff stuff because I just feel like, people don't know me intimately there. And I'm like, no one's really watching. Like, it's fine. I can just like throw up whatever and people are more open to it. Um, my balance between aesthetics, Instagram, I do try to keep it more aesthetic, I will say. But I've kind of just learned to be like, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Like people don't even really watch your content that closely. I feel like sometimes they just see you and they want to support, so they'll throw it a like anyways. And I do that too. So like it doesn't even really matter, but I think as long as you show up consistently and you have your kind of like signature series, which is whatever it may be, my signature series, I kind of keep it into three content pillars. I have like the drawing stuff for sure. Any interior design projects I'm working on and that process behind it. And then anything like while I'm traveling, like cool interiors, things like that. I like to put that in that bucket. I definitely need to refine my content pillars, as you will say. For the repurposing content between platforms, I will say, I think Instagram right now, the carousels is doing pretty well. Like I have found that I've taken some old content and kind of figured out ways to repurpose it, and it seems like carousels are doing pretty well. My thoughts on going viral. Going viral is good for gaining a lot of followers, I've noticed. But sometimes it's still like they won't be like highly engaged. They're kind of just there for that one thing. I found that people are more engaged. It's just like your friends and people who actually know you that you've met or anyone you interact a lot with online. So definitely leave comments on other people's pages, like throw them a like, make your virtual friends. How to stay inspired without burning out or chasing trends. I definitely there's some weeks I kind of like I'm not online as much, and that's just to like take a step back. I try not to stay on TikTok that often because it's nice to be inspired and see what other people are doing, but then I don't know if you kind of find the same thing, but you're like on Instagram and you're like, okay, everyone's doing this narrator trend now. Everyone's doing this like holy airball trend. And I'm just like, I don't know, it just like feels so tacky. So I try to kind of gravitate away from that. Okay, partnerships with a purpose. This one is fun. My first brand deal, let me think about it. My first brand deal with Figma, they reached out. But before that, I would do a lot of like strategic things. Like I would DM the brands, and I find the DMs are really effective. I would also, what you need to do is like create yourself a media kit, pull out your statistics from Pinterest, all your social platforms, have a little bio, include all any like little brands you've worked with. But I just created myself a media kit back then. And then I would never also put the pricing on the media kit. It's just like once I asked what deliverables they wanted, then I'd be like, oh, okay, this is the price for that or whatever. But a lot of the times I would just fit in brands I would want to work with. What else did I draw that came about? I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but it did happen for a lot of them. I would draw something and then they're like, "Oh, I saw you like drew this bag for someone else. Like, can you do the same thing?" And I also start off the prices that I priced it at. It definitely has grown over the years. Like I started pretty low and I thought what was fair at the time. So with time, I think you can price more as you have, you can show your value for the clients or like the reach or whatever, the analytics that come with it. So what to look for in a good partnership? I definitely have done a lot of like strategic alignment. For example, if you guys know the design brand, the furniture brand Design Within Reach, I think I saw last year they were running this little champagne cork contest where you basically take a champagne cork and you like mold a chair out of it. It was just open to the US at the time. I remember seeing it, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do one for fun and make a little video out of it because I live in Canada and I did that and I think I got like 1 million views just crafting this little chair out of cork. And then the next year they reached back out and they were like, "Oh, we'd like to partner with you and basically promote this contest." And then they ended up like sending me this beautiful chair. I can't see it, but this chair I'm sitting on also. And I molded it out of cork. So I was like, this is like amazing. Like I can't believe it. Um, so just try and put things out there, Like it doesn't matter. It was just only open to US residents. So I think the internet is very wonderful. Sometimes you have a lot of amazing opportunities like this, just to like showcase your own work. And then sometimes I had to do stuff for the paycheck, to be honest. Sometimes you do need to pay the bills. So I would take on little random things, but maybe not post it on my page. Sometimes it's just for their page, which is like UGC user-generated content, which I think is totally fine. And then how do I protect my creative voice even with paid content? This one, another one that comes to mind recently that I worked on is I did a ad for Google for their new Gemini AI assistant. So I will say if you're working with a brand and if it's through an agency, really make sure from the beginning, like ask them what deliverables they need or like what the parameters are. Like if they want nothing in the background at all, like make sure it's blank. Because with an agency, there's the feedback, you hand something in and then they give you the feedback. It takes like 4 weeks sometimes for them to respond. And then it was a little frustrating at the time afterwards because they kind of ended up editing the video how they wanted it because it had to fall within their kind of like Google branding guidelines. But for me, aesthetically, it was really painful because the captions were like this font I didn't like. There was like just a weird blur, and I was really unsatisfied with it. And I offered to reshoot it within the weekend and whatnot, but because they were such a big agency, they were like, no, we can't do that. Like, our deal is finishing with Google. Like, we just have to put it out. So, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because once again, people are going to look at it for a second, but for us, it's like this is such a big deal. Like, this is our brand. This is like how I'm being seen. So, I would just say, just to make sure when you're having those preliminary meetings with the brands, just to be really clear on what do you want in the background. You don't want anything at all. Like, just so you can avoid reshooting things, I would say. Just having really like strong boundaries. And then pricing tips, I kind of touched on um before, but when I was just starting out, I definitely priced lower. And then now as I've gone on and there's like you kind of have like results or statistics, you can definitely price higher. And I would also advise offering like bundled things. So, maybe try to offer like, oh, I'm gonna do a video for like 3 months, and then you can kind of get a larger sum and also a longer partnership with this brand. I do have an agent right now, and I we can go into that if you have questions, but there's like pros and cons to it, I will say. Does anyone have questions about that?
I would be super curious to learn what it's like on the influencer side working with an agent. From the agency side, it's definitely can be a roadblock. So yeah, curious to hear what it's like for you and the
What do
benefits
you
and
what do
cons.
you mean a roadblock?
Rather than speaking directly with the client, almost in the same way that you were mentioning the agency in front of Google,
Mhm.
that time delay, communication lags, maybe wanting to chat directly with the influencer about creative direction or something like that, or even rates, and
Yeah,
not being able to go back and forth as quickly and as openly because there's that person that wants to,
yeah,
gatekeep who's there for a reason. Of course, the talent has hired them, but
yeah.
yeah, just curious to learn what it's
Um,
like.
I would say, I mean, okay, so for a creative agency, like a creative agency when I was working with them, it is we're always like all CC'd on the emails, but I think it I it's just not the most fun to work with them because of the time delays. But I mean, they're usually really good. They show you the creative brief. Like it's not that it's not that bad.
Yeah, I know what you
Um,
mean. But yeah,
yeah.
working with an agent, like you were saying, like a talent agent, what is that like? What are the pros and
Well,
cons there?
the pros is that they kind of handle all the billing and the financing and the negotiating. And then if you're really busy, it's kind of taken care of. But I don't know, for me, I think I'm someone who's kind of very type A with the emails. So when it comes in, usually I'm responding in 5, 10 minutes if I'm free. And then now I find I kind of have to go back. I don't know if I'm like I always don't feel like I'm like reminding them, but like I have to give like a gentle nudge because I know they have different clients and whatever, but they just respond more in like a timely manner versus when you're by yourself, you're like, what's the deal? Like, can we go back and forth like really quick? So I guess maybe I have to learn to let go a little bit also at the same time. But it is nice because the agent will offer like a higher rate, and maybe it's because it also seems like, oh, you have an agent, then they can ask these like negotiate a bit higher.
Mhm.
What's kind of different is I think now I can't take these like smaller mid-size deals because then it's not worth it enough for the agent.
Right.
And then and sometimes I'm like, oh, am I missing out on these deals? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, maybe they're not really as beneficial to me in the larger picture or larger scheme of things. So it's kind of like finding that sweet spot
And
of
when you
push.
began working with the agent, did they kind of set those boundaries with you? Is that an open discussion where you can say, okay, this is the type of work that I'm looking for? I'm open to smaller details if it aligns with my brand or something, or are they kind of setting those parameters of what they're looking for on your behalf?
No, we definitely spoke about it together. I think we have very like this a similar outlook, which is why we're working together. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, I think he's pushing me to do more, which is good. It was a good thing in the end. But also I've went through a few people who've like contacted me and like wanted to represent, and a lot of the times they would nothing really like came about it. And I haven't had a lot of mostly he's right now just kind of working with my inbound leads. Like he hasn't brought any new things to me, but I only started working with him like 2 months ago. So I think also just giving it time and we'll see. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm super curious if working with an agent will also bring you better deals as well.
I hope so. I mean, he has good connections for like a larger things like versus outside just doing like influencer brand partnerships. So I'm hoping like that's like the direction he can help take me in.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we're in questions. That's it.
Okay, perfect. Well, we can open up the chat then. I know that there was one message from Midi. Did you have a high level of posting through the years under until now, which contributed to success on social media?
Yeah, 100%. When I first hit the 100, or when I was trying to hit on 100,000, and after that year as well, I was posting very consistently. I was posting like at least every day, I think. And but now it's also with the content I do, the drawing now, like it takes me like 2, 3 days to do one drawing. So I can't really do the same kind of output. So I've kind of slowed down on that, but I really do want to ramp up on it again for my different design projects. Yeah.
Mhm. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, looks like we have one from Taylor. In terms of building your community, not your following necessarily, is there anything fun that you're doing, like Instagram close friends or anything like that?
Oh, that's a really good idea. No, I haven't. I haven't. I love that. Yeah, I should do a close friends. Thank you for that idea.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I think we're all set then.
Thanks, guys. Thanks
Okay,
for
thanks so much for
joining.
your time, Phoebe.
Okay, bye. Have a good
Bye,
one.
everyone.